Hi everyone, thanks for joining me again. I appreciate that you are here and that you've taken time out of your day to watch one of my videos and to learn a bit about art. For today's activity, we're going to need some watercolour paints, probably a mixing palette, not necessarily, but if you've but if you've got one, you can use it, or you can use an old plastic palette. You can use anything to mix paints in. We'll need some paintbrushes. I've got a variety of sizes here. We'll need a pencil and an eraser, and I have run out of masking tape, so I've got this little washi tape, so we're going to be using that. Hopefully it doesn't stick to my paper. Now we can use water-based ink, or you can use some watered down acrylics. That's perfectly fine. I've got a little white gel pen here. You can, or you don't have to use that. I'm just grabbing a variety of things and just playing with my materials today. And you can play with whatever you have, of course. We'll need a couple of jars of water. We'll need a piece of watercolour paper. Today I'm using an A5 size. I've never done this activity today. I was inspired by one of my friends, Kelly, posted a gorgeous picture of these beautiful rocks, and they had all these gorgeous colours and textures. So I've been inspired. So thanks, Kelly, for letting me use your photo as inspiration. I think it's time we got started. Okay, so here's the lovely photo that Kelly let me use for inspiration for today. The first thing that I'm going to be doing is just pencil in. Now, I've just noticed that you can barely see this. But what you need to do is just pencil in a variety of shapes of rocks. You can have them all circles, you can have them all oval shapes, or like mine, you can have them a variety of different shapes, just to give you a rough outline to know where to change the textures and the colours of your watercolour paint. So just keep working it until you're happy with it. You're going to have some gaps in between the rocks, and that is perfectly fine because we are going to be painting those gaps in a very dark colour just to create shading. So just continue until you're quite happy with it, and you can still always change it further on down the track anyway. So what I'm going to do is mix a variety of browns. And I'm wanting a lot of greys in this as well. So I've mixed a bit of black and a bit of a darker brown. And I'm just going to begin painting. This colour is a really nice colour. I'm happy with this colour. It was the kind of colour that I was after for this activity. So I'm just going to quickly fill this in. Now remember, we want to create texture. So we're not colouring in, we are filling in with a variety of shades of the colour. Now I've painted that. While it's still wet, I'm using my ink, my water-based ink, and I'm just doing tiny little dots on it. And then I've got just a little bit more, and I'm doing different sized dots just to create some lovely texture. Then I can get my tissue and pat over it and create even more texture, which is fantastic. So what I'm doing here is just speeding up and showing you the process that I continued on with. I just created colours that interest me, that I thought looked nice. I used more water on some parts of each rock, less water on others, just to create some depth and some interest in each of the rocks. Then while it was wet, I just dappled some darker colours over the top, just as I did with the water-based ink. And you can continue doing this. If you don't have water-based ink, you can use white watercolour. You can use acrylic that's been watered down. I tried to flick, but that didn't work, so I just continued just doing tiny little dots. So the whole point of this activity is just learning how to create lots of different lovely texture and how easy it is to use watercolour to do this. So I didn't film all of the painting of these rocks, but I'm just showing you a few different ways that I chose to do my rocks. I used browns and greys, used a variation of amounts of water. I flicked a little of the white ink, which worked quite well, so I was happy with that. It created lots of lovely texture there. And then I dabbled some grey over the top. So I'm just going to continue doing that with the rest. All I'm doing here is just continuing the same process. Wetting my paintbrush, swishing it around in some watercolour, creating different browns on my palette or different greys on my palette. While that is still wet, I'm getting different colours, contrast colours. So I might use darker colours than the rock, lighter colours than the rock. And I'm just dabbling or dabbing the paintbrush very softly onto that watercoloured area, just so it creates differences in the rocks. You know, because rocks aren't just these perfect. Some rocks are perfectly smooth and lovely and all one colour, but most rocks are varied. They've got a lot of variation in the colour. When it's almost dry, I actually go back over it and create smaller ones that don't bleed so much into the watercolour. So you have to let your painting dry just a little bit to create the smaller dots. So I'm still working here, trying to keep all the browns that I'm using all matching so it's a nice coordinated piece. Now all I did here was fill in any white gaps that I had with a little bit of colour, because I was going to create some pebbles in these smaller parts as well. Okay, so that's fairly dry now. So what I'm going to do is get some of this. I don't want too thick splatters. We've used this technique before. So I'm just going to splatter some of the white over the top. Give it some nice texture. Might need a little bit more. That one's a bit big. I'll wipe that one off. But I love how this gives a huge variety of different shaped dots, and it's kind of creating a bit of uniformity with my rocks as well, which I like. So this ink really blends in. I'll quickly just dab those really large blobs up though. There's one just there. Blend that one in. I'll just blend that one in too. A little bit more. And then I think we're ready to paint in between our rocks after that. I have to make sure that in between each of these processes it dries. And when we're painting these individual rocks, you have to make sure that it's pretty dry, because you don't want the colours literally bleeding into each other. You do want to make sure that there is some difference in the rock, a nice defined line that separates it. But very shortly we're going to be painting a darker colour in that anyway to create some darkness and give the rocks a bit of depth. Okay, I think I'm done. Now the next step involves me mixing up a reasonably dark colour. I don't want it to be black as such, but I do want it to be quite dark. So I'm mixing a black and a dark brown together. And I want to make it fairly watery as well, so it paints on smoothly. So what I'm going to do now is speed up me painting around the outlines of these rocks using this dark colour. Okay, so here we have that stage finished. I just went through all of them. I tried to round off the rocks as much as I could. You could leave it at that point and call that finished, or you could actually add a little bit of, you could do some speckles with the blacks or a darker grey colour, the same as I did with the white. You could also add some light and some shade to your picture. So some of my rocks, for example, this one down here is underneath. Actually, I might even turn this rock into one there and have another one just around here and a smaller one there, because I don't like the shape of that, and that's perfectly fine. You can change it up. But this rock here, I'm imagining that that's underneath these rocks. So I'm going to add a little bit of grey colour along the edge there, just to give it a little bit of shape. And I'm imagining that my sun, or my source of light, will be coming from this side. So I might, on the raised rocks, I might add like a little bit of white across there and across there, maybe on this one, just to give it a little bit more interest. So you can stop yours here, or you can create some shade and light, and you can also mess around with the shapes of your rocks again, creating different shaped rocks, just so it's pleasing to your eye, because remember, this is your artwork. So all I've done in these bottom section is just painted a little bit of grey, and I now have some white watercolour, which I'm just going to give a try, painting over the top part of it, just to give that a shine. So I've got this little one here, so I'll just paint a bit of white on this side. I mean, you can't see much of it, but that's perfectly fine. Just to give it a bit of a glow, and that's pretty much it. So I'm just going to finish this off, and then I will come back once I'm done. Okay, there we have our finished little piece. I had a little bit of a problem down the bottom here where the tape tore, unfortunately, so that looks a bit messed up down there. But there we have it, a simple technique, far from perfect, but it's all about having fun and showing you that there are loads of different ways that you can paint and create. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I greatly appreciate everyone that takes their time to watch the videos. Would love to see any of your artworks that you create from using my YouTube videos. You can find my Facebook group, Free Art Class. You can join that up and you can post any art that you create from there. If you've enjoyed what you've seen or found it helpful, please like and subscribe. It's very encouraging when I see people like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and it keeps me creating and it keeps me sharing other ideas that other people can do to increase their creativity as well. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.